Wow, what a reveal. I'm excited about Element and what it can do for our developers. Well, actually at a personal level, I'm even more excited about unleashing real personal productivity challenges, such as replying to my 327 unread WhatsApp messages on family group, or just what to order for dinner tonight. While we're still a little into I'm being a little futuristic, but it's exciting what Element can do to empower our developers. And the story is not very different for ad tech. Agentic AI can really empower the entire ecosystem, starting from advertisers, publishers, customers, and even our internal teams that operate on these systems day to day. Actually, a quick show of hands. How many of you think that AI had some role to play in the ads that you saw in the last 1 week? The truth is, it probably had. And what better way to guide this conversation today than having Abhay Singhal with us, who's been at the helm of every ad tech wave, from display ads back in the days, which made our websites look like Las Vegas, to programmatic, to mobile, to social, and now the wave of agentic AI in ad tech. So Abhay, if you were to zoom out, could you walk us through what have been the various waves in ad tech and why the current tectonic shift feels so different?
Thank you, Vaishali. Thank you for having me here. And what a fantastic gathering. Advertising for us, each one of us in the room, has been something that has kept internet free forever. And it has a potential to keep internet free forever, including all the things that we are doing on LLMs. We think that if AI has to be the one that has to help the entire humanity, then the advertising needs to evolve to support LLMs as well. Back in the day, from the first banner ads, and we were joking just behind, when they launched in 1994, they had the click-through rate of about 44%. That just sounds like amazing back then. And from then to all the way, the launch of Google search ads, Facebook display ads, and so on and so forth, and the evolution of programmatic. Ads have kept pace with the consumption of humans to keep the internet free for all. The other thing that I've always seen is that the human consumption moves first, and then the advertising comes secondary. So if you look at our own behavior, I'm sure 90% of us in the room would have used ChatGPT or one of that tools in the morning today. The latest data is that about 50% of the users that are using ChatGPT are sitting in India at this point in time, and we are all consuming it. But today, there are no ads in that ecosystem. Now, what the ads are going to look like in that ecosystem, it's anybody's guess. I think it's a $100 billion problem as to what is going to be the advertising that will keep the LLM and the agentic conversations free forever. But certainly, there will be a mechanism that will make the brands represent themselves in the new way in which consumers are finding information and researching about the things. The reason why this trend also feels very different is, for the first time, we are getting answers. For the first time as consumers, we are getting agents to work for us in helping our research. Unlike previously, where we were given a set of blue links to go potentially click and find more things and go on and go forth. And it's very, very different. If you just straight line this from here to the future, what is helping you today in writing reports or researching questions, potentially it can help you in finishing the tasks tomorrow, or become your therapist, or helping us finish the homework for our kids. In fact, my son now writes all of his English homework using ChatGPT. My daughter is learning Spanish using those tools. So I don't know what the world is going to look like in the future, but certainly it will be very different than what it is today. And the ads will be there to support it.
Yeah, well said. I particularly love that how ads follow where human consumption is, and as consumption is moving towards these agentic tools, ads will only naturally follow. In that world where customers start using agents and agentic commerce scales, I know you said it's $100 billion question on what would CX look like, but if you were to have a crystal ball, how would you predict the world to be? Like, would ads feel more relevant, less disruptive? You know, they say back in the day, like ads personalization is like salt. Just right, it's magical. Too much, it's creepy. So where's that fine line of ensuring that trust and transparency is at the center of our customer experience, and who owns the last mile of personalization?
Look, the best ads in the world are those which actually do not even feel like an ad. They actually feel like part of a natural human consumption. And so much so that it aids in your discovery, it aids in your research, it aids in your consumption, and it just enhances the human experience. At any point in time, wherever ads have stuck as a sore experience, it has never delivered the kind of value that it has the potential of. So if we look at today's AI consumption, or the promise of it. The promise of it is that it will help you do more. It will cut down the repetitive tasks that we as consumers are doing. And it will help us outsource some of the things to the agents that could maybe negotiate on our behalf, that could research on our behalf, and that could maybe even in the future transact on our behalf. Now, if those are the promise of the agentic world, then the ads promise cannot be different than this. Ads cannot be the ones that are enticing the user to click on it. Ads have to also be the one that is aiding the consumer's need of research, consumer's need of negotiation, and consumer's need of transaction. And I actually feel that only when ads promise and the consumption promise will be in the sync, the question of transparency and CX will not emerge. The question of this trade-off is only when the promise of ad and the promise of consumption is very, very different. And the reason why we are asking this question today is because truly speaking, we haven't yet discovered what the right ad experience within the LLM world is going to look like. We're doing this comparison with old world ad experience into the new world consumption, and it almost feels like you have taken a new Porsche car and you have put a banner on it, or you have stuck a sticker on it. Of course, it will not look good. But imagine if there was a sponsored agent. Imagine if there was a brand would come and say, how do I aid you in your research? I am sure we all would welcome the opportunity, because look at your own consumption. We are using many of these tools in researching all the time in our consumption. So to answer your question here, Vaishali, the last mile in terms of the trust and transparency, I think it's again the question of the experience. Whoever controls the experience would have the responsibility to own the last mile trust and transparency. And towards that, I believe LLMs have a very, very important role to play in terms of how they present themselves to the consumers going forward.
Yeah, I like two things in particular. The first thing you said, the role of AI is not just about optimizing processes and cutting down tasks. It's also now going to converge towards owning outcomes. In fact, our Walmart's view of agentic AI is not very different. We are in the works of building our super agent for partners. It's called Marty. And by partners, I mean whether you're a supplier, seller, or an advertiser, it should be very easy for you to find the right customer, just the way it's very easy for customers to find the right product for themselves. And it's one single interface that allows partners to be able to take the right action to drive the right business outcome. So that's what we are thinking about in the world of agentic AI for Walmart. And it's going to be at a global scale. Like no matter where you are, which market you're operating in, one interface that lets you take the help of Marty to do whatever outcomes you want to drive. And as we keep talking about building more and more of these super agents, and in the world where these agentic tools will help internal teams, in fact, at Walmart, we do say and take pride in people-led, tech-powered. We believe our people are the secret sauce, and you build the right tools, and the magic happens. So in that world, where do you think is the symbiosis between humans and machines? What's that sweet spot to marry the human strategic insight, creativity with machine-led optimization?
It's the most important question, isn't it? I think, as parents of teenagers, as a professional, we are all asking these questions to ourselves as to where does this net out? Because this era of technology feels very different. I'll give you one very interesting anecdote, and then I'll get into this answer. The other day, me and my wife were arguing on something. It's like in every family. There was no head and tail of the argument, but we were still arguing. After that, I went into ChatGPT and tried to put all of this thing into together and said, what could I have done differently? And it gave me the answer. And it also said, do you want a script to address this next time with your wife? I said, please give me the script. Next time again, similar argument happened. As a good student of technology, I tried to use the script. You can imagine how that conversation went. So, look, I think AI is very, very good in doing the repetitive tasks. Maybe it is very good in also researching and giving you the answer. But what it does not do well is to find a way to connect. What my wife was seeking from me was not answers to her questions. I mean, she knows the answer to the questions. What she was seeking from me is a connect. And that is what, as humans, that is our superpower. So somewhere, we have to also recognize between the humans and AI as to what is our core competency. As a parent, my core competency is to provide the trust, safety, comfort, warmth, and love to my kid. Not to drive them from one place to the other place all the time, or not to help them do their homework. I mean, look at it. I mean, if you sort of divide between the two tasks, you would very easily be able to see there are some tasks that are very mechanical, and there are some tasks that are very warm, fuzzy, and are literally the soul of the role that we play. And it is true in our personal life, it is true in our professional life, it is true as a software engineer when we are creating a code, it is true as a product manager when we are building a product. So somewhere, if we can separate this out as to what is the soul of my role and keep that with us and outsource the repetitive task, outsource the task that I would outsource to a good agent, I think that's the perfect symbiosis of a great AI-human combination. And I would also say that unless we are able to do so, I actually think that the world will be a very boring place. Like, who wants to see the repeated copy of the same machine-generated content all the time. We like the flaws in the argument. What makes us human is because we are the ones that are able to connect with the other people, and that's what our products need to do. So somehow that is where I'm netting out. You have to put technology as a great agent, as a great partner that can serve the soul of the role, and we need to keep that soul with us.
Yeah.
And that's where I think it'll net out.
Yeah, I love that, especially the part of keeping the soul, which is still human curated. And it's almost like if I were to create an analogy, AI is your sous chef. It can do all the chopping, all the assembly of the ingredients, but who decides the recipe? Who does the final plating? Like who determines what to serve today is still human-led. While there was something really interesting, I do want to harper one advice which Abhay has already given us. Should you have a fight with your spouse, do not use ChatGPT. So that's a good advice. But jokes aside, for this room sitting here, Abhay, what would be that one advice you would give us to prepare ourselves better for the era of agentic AI in AdTech?
I think there are probably 2 or 3 things that I would say. The first and foremost is embrace this evolution, because I would rather have 100 failed experiments than being frozen in our steps. The cost of experimentation has really become low at this point in time. Each one of us can code, each one of us can write, each one of us can become copywriters, each one of us can become a playwright, and so on and so forth. So the cost of experimentation is so low that one does not really have any reason not to not experiment now. So that's point number 1. Point number 2 is learn to think in a little bit of an abstract manner. If you're a software developer, just separate out between whether your core competency is to write that loop or write that program and make it more efficient, or is your core competency is to design an environment and give the prompts to the LLM so that it can write that loop better. Recognize where your core competencies are and develop those core competencies, because if you don't develop them, and we take a comfort in doing the repetitive task better, I think we will have a struggle in the future. That's point number 2. And point number 3 to me, in the AdTech community, or especially in the world of advertising, if we are sitting 5 years from now, we would have discovered what the cutting edge advertising model for ChatGPT or any other such LLM is. We would have discovered it. Today it feels very weird, but 5 years later, we would be sitting probably in the same room and talking about, oh, this is a beautiful new model that works very well. So embrace this discomfort, embrace this confusion that we don't know what the world is going to look like, but still in the same world continue the experimentation. Because I have seen this even within InMobi and many other places. I mean, there is all sort of narratives come out that 95% of the experiments fail. Yeah, of course they will fail, but I'm not interested in 95% that fail. I'm interested in 5% that succeed, because those are the ones that will show the beacon of hope and show the beacon of light for what the future entails. So those are the 3 things that I would say.
Well said. So if I were to just wrap up, it's all about ensuring how do we balance, let tech write the playbook, anchor it in trust, and amplify what humans do best. What I really liked was your advice on ensuring that we disrupted ourselves, the change that's happening, and that disruption would only happen if we embrace it and have velocity in experimentation. Like the 5% that needs to be identified would only happen if we have the huge velocity on experimentation.
Absolutely, and look, I think, I don't think that there has ever been a better time to be experimentative than now. The 1% companies can become massively successful 1% teams can become massively successful. So really speaking, there is really no excuse to experiment.
Yeah, I think one thing that AI has given us is agency, right? There's no excuse anymore. I think we're approaching our time together. Thank you, Abhay, so much for sharing these insights, and thank you everyone for joining us today. I hope you enjoyed the session.
Thank you very much.